All righty. Apologies there, Matt. Good morning, sir. They get me
going
on. Just crypto gets me going sometimes. So what can I tell you? I'm excited for this bull run that is coming, bro. Oh, man. Anyway, so are you guys nervous in KC? Because, those Bengal Tigers seem to have your number there. So I'm wondering how the Chiefs Nation is handling it, because you were pretty brutally honest about the Bengals facing the Chiefs.
I mean, first of all, they don't seem to have their number. They have the number. Like they beat the Chiefs every time they play. They beat them by a field goal every game. They beat them, and every time the Bengals play the Chiefs turn into this team that just makes a million mistakes. Like, and that's a credit to Cincinnati. Like, I think sometimes people say that as a way of being like, well, it's flukish. Well, it's not flukish if it happens every time you play them. Like, at some point, it's just a problem.
No, you're doing it again like you did last year. It doesn't become a fluke anymore when you come back and do it again. Last week I picked the Bengals to win.
So did I.
And I took the number, and I took the number and the points. Yeah. And I did that because I was wrong. Because I said, I thought this Bengals team was like Boomer Esiason and Ken Anderson, that they were one-shot wonders and that's it, and they weren't going to get back, and they rode the wave, they got there, that's it, it's over. And this year has proven that it's not. And the reason why I'm going to tell you, it's their defense.
Yeah,
it's their defense. They have the weapons. And by the way, kudos to their offensive line coaches, because with all the injuries, they still were able to, do a really good job overall up front. But it's their defense that makes plays consistently, and I got to give them credit.
They're so much better than people think they are. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand why. I don't understand why. Coming into the year, okay, it may be a fluke. We'll see. I picked them to win 11 or 12 games because I just thought Burrow was excellent. So I thought they'd be good again. But as the year went on, like, they were clearly really good. And I looked at the number late last week, and the Bills are favored by 6 points. Like, why are the Bills laying 6 points in this game? Like, look, two things are true in my opinion. The Bills are overrated. The Bills are a good football team. They're really talented. The Bills could have and maybe should have lost to Skylar Thompson, okay, and then followed that up by doing absolutely nothing offensively. Like, I've never seen a talented team like them that has no plan any game they enter. It's like, I don't know, Josh, you do it. You figure it out, bud, whatever it takes. I honestly thought the biggest reason.
By the way, they came out of this saying he needs a better second receiver. No, and I'm like, really? That's what you guys came out of? Like that? I mean, come on.
I've seen so many people say, well, if they had Von Miller play offense, because they scored 10 points. Like, they couldn't do anything in that game.
Right.
And, we talked about it last week. I thought the Chiefs would do the exact same thing the Bengals did to them. I really did. I thought if the Bills got to the AFC title game in a neutral site, I thought the Chiefs would kill Buffalo. The Bengals beat them to it. Like, I think Cincinnati's really well coached. Anarumo's a great defensive coordinator. They do a lot. They don't have like unbelievable talent. They have good talent defensively, but they're really well coached. And offensively, they've got those receivers on the outside. Burrow's the guy who's underrated in some eyes because he's not unbelievably physically gifted, but he's just a killer. Like, he's accurate. He's got swagger for days. You can make all the throws you have to make.
Montana was like that.
He was
just like that.
Absolutely.
Wasn't going to wow you with any kind of skill at all. He was just going to wow you with money plays, bro.
No, he's great. He's great. Look, I've said it. I said on my own podcast. I think the Bengals are going to beat the Chiefs this weekend. I do. I mean, would I be surprised if the Chiefs won? No,
of course not. They're a great team.
I think the game is a coin flip, but the Bengals always find a way to beat the Chiefs. So until otherwise proven, I will take Cincinnati to find a way to win the game.
And by the way they played with their offensive line all beaten up, like, wow, that's a boost right there. And let's just talk about Burrow, okay? Because you just kind of touched on it, but how special the guy is, because there's no fear in him. That warm-up play that they show of him where he does that spin and he throws the ball, and he's there in Buffalo warming up. And did you see that highlight of him spinning into the ball?
Yes.
And he's just he spins around and just blindly throws it to the left sideline, and just right there in the receiver's hands. It's just the timing is perfect. And you can't, what Burrow has, you can't teach. It's some of these guys have it, whether it's, and yes, I'm going to say it, Michael Jordan or Magic Johnson or Walter Payton or Jerry Rice or Joe Montana or Tom Brady or what. It's just some of these guys possess that quality, and it oozes out of them. And then it just fortifies everybody around you, dude. And I don't care if you're the holder for the kicker. Okay. It's just one of those things. And you see it there because Mahomes does that too. He did it this past week. The fact that he wanted to stay in the game with that knee. Do you think that doesn't raise the awareness of everybody else going, okay, the best player on our team is now playing super injured. I got to make sure I do better than I normally would even think of doing, that kind of shit.
I don't think it was an accident that when Mahomes went out with that ankle sprain, that immediately that defense didn't give up a point for like 4 straight possessions. I mean, that is the one thing I am interested about in this game. And sometimes I think this stuff's overblown, and maybe it will be for this game too. But like, the Chiefs are favorites in every game they ever play. They're always the favorite. They're always the team that everybody thinks is going to win the game. Doesn't matter if they're home, they're away. Like, they're always laying points. They're always the team that people are like, well, they're the measuring stick. And now they're not in this game. Cincinnati's a slight favorite, and they are wounded with Mahomes. Arrowhead is going to be loud, sure, but it's going to be very emotional. Like, I'm curious. I never feel that games, a lot of times I think, look, a game starts, teams kind of get their bearings. I think the start to that game is going to be very important who wins it. If Cincinnati gets up quick and they put that doubt in Kansas City, I think it really quiets that crowd in a big way. If Mahomes takes the ball with his ankle taped up with about 8 pounds of tape, and they go right down the field and jam it in the end zone, that place will go insane. I do think if I'm Cincinnati, I normally would kick the ball off to start the game. I would take the ball and try to score if they win the toss.
Yeah, just shut them up right away. Right.
The last thing I want if I'm Cincinnati is Mahomes going down the field and getting us up 7-0, and all of a sudden that crowd's going nuts because sometimes when you're an underdog, which they never are, there's this added emotion of like, nobody thinks we're going to win this game. We're going to show you we're going to win this game. And especially with them, they can never beat Cincinnati. So look, I don't know how much that plays into it. Maybe it doesn't at all. But it's a weird spot for the Chiefs emotionally. They're never in that spot. And conversely, Cincinnati's played this role, rightfully so. We're the underdog. Nobody believes. Now everybody believes in the Bengals. Everybody believes in Cincinnati going to this game. So it's a little bit of a weird role reversal for two teams that usually are on the opposite sides of this thing.
Here's the other amazing part. You're winning with Mike Brown. I mean, that
is amazing.
That is something that, and I think that's what
maybe, I don't know.
Maybe that's why it takes you a little longer to believe in Burrow. Maybe that's why it takes you a little longer to believe in the Bengals. It might be just because of that guy and what comes with that baggage that's been there forever. And now we're watching and a Zach Taylor, who wasn't necessarily looked at as some kind of great coach or anything like that. He was here in Miami, dude. He was like an assistant quarterback coach or something here in Miami. And Arumo was here in Miami also, by the way, as a defensive coordinator. So, these kind of guys. And then you look at them and you're there in Cincinnati, and it's almost like once you go there, doesn't matter who you are, you're not taken nearly as serious because overall it's Cincinnati. And I think that malaise kind of blinds us to a certain level.
I think you're right. And, man, it's going to be really interesting. Like, in a weird way, both of these teams, we always talk about pressure in the playoffs. And I can't remember if we talked that in your show last week, Big O, or not. But I remember saying to multiple people, I thought the Bills were under the most pressure last week. because the Bills were the preseason favorite and everybody picked them and they're at home and they got to win this game. And I mean, look, let's call it what it was. They choked like dogs in that game. I mean, they just flat out choked like dogs in that football game.
Yep.
This game is weird because I feel like oddly both teams are under a lot of pressure. Like the Chiefs are under pressure because they have to beat the Bengals at some point. They're home, 2 in a row at home, losing to them in the AFC title game. That's tough. On the flip side, if you're the Bengals, you mentioned Mike Brown. It made me think about this. So I looked up their free agents upcoming this season. Now, Burrow, of course, is not a free agent, but he is due for a massive contract extension or becomes eligible for one. Tyler Boyd, he's got 1 year left on his deal. Then he's a free agent. I would imagine he probably walks after next year. T. Higgins, one more year.
This year. No, doesn't he? No,
he's got one more year. He's got one more year. Wow. And then it's like, well, but this offseason, like you got a decision to make. Like, are you going to pay him a fortune and an extension, or are you going to be willing to let that go to the tag? Right? Like, that's a real decision. But then he's
a franchise guy, dude. He's gonna get number one money,
huge money.
He becomes available.
100%. He's like, if I'm him, I'm saying you're paying me more than what AJ Brown got because it's another year later. The cap's going to go up. I want 27, 28 million a year. Period. Is Cincinnati, which let's face it, has known to be cheap forever. Are they going to pay Higgins, Chase, and Burrow? I don't think they are either.
They have to put you, as you know. They have to put that money in escrow.
Right. So all that guaranteed money is got to go in escrow immediately.
Yeah, Burrow's going to get $200 million guaranteed, bro.
Minimum.
And you're going to have to put that in escrow. You have to write a check for $200 million in cash.
Correct.
And then you have to pay the receiver.
Yep.
So you can't pay both receivers. There's no way that Mike Brown can do that.
After next year, like they have like serious things going on. And even this year, if you look, Hayden Hurst is a free agent for them this year after this season. Jermaine Pratt, who's a really good linebacker, he's a free agent after this year. Jesse Bates, Von Bell, Eli Apple, all of them, they're all free. Like, there's some pressure on the Bengals because the Bengals are typically not known to pay teams or to pay players. Like, they don't do it. And even after the season, some of those guys, like I said, who aren't unrestricted free agents but have 1 year left, Burrow's going to come knocking for an extension. Higgins is going to want an extension. Logan Wilson's going to want an extension. Like, you're going to have real and look, you've been in a locker room, so have I. Those guys might be under contract. If they don't get extensions this offseason, they're going to be pissed.
Oh, yeah.
So that's going to factor in. Like, they're going to go from this, hey, we're young, everybody's an underdog, to like, hey, man, look, it's time to pay everybody.
Yeah.
And that, I'm not saying it's going to blow the whole team up, but like, you've got to, they're going to have to make real decisions, just like the Chiefs had to with Tyreek Hill going to Miami, Tyrann Mathieu leaving. They're not quite there yet because Burrow's still going to be cheap for a couple of years, but like all those other ancillary pieces, they're not going to be able to keep every one of them. So I think there's a lot of pressure on both those teams to win on Sunday night.
Yeah, it's their window. It is
their window. 100%.
This is their window right now. The other thing that I was going to ask you, all right, so, and this is the fun part about it because he's not really getting killed for this. So if Burrow, I'm sorry, if Josh Allen, he loses in the wild card year, his first year, then lost in the conference, then lost in the division rounds the last 2 years.
Yep.
So I'm just wondering because, this getting over the hump stuff. And I just, first of all, he's got to get there and perform and all that kind of stuff. But I had some fun yesterday. I said, if they put Tua in the same position, they would be roasting his ass right now because he can't get past the divisional round with that team and the window and all that kind of stuff. Because for the Bills, by the way, they also have windows because they're going to have to pay a whole bunch of people also on their team. And that's coming up like now. It's coming up. You're going to have to pay some of these guys.
Right.
So all of a sudden, I'm just looking at it, and then, like I told you earlier, all that comes out of it, he needs a better second receiver. But meanwhile, we're killing Dak Prescott, which we should because he choked like a dog. But I'm just saying, Josh Allen, with all the praise and all the talent that he has, and how talented that team is, and how much we think they're a Super Bowl contender, well, they're not even getting there to the Super Bowl. So I'm just wondering, why isn't Josh Allen getting more criticism? Because I could put other quarterbacks in that same position,
Fair.
and we would be getting roasted right now.
No, I think a lot of it, honestly, is people of our ilk in the media who have built him up to be God in cleats, and now it's like, well, if I criticize him, I really kind of look like a dope. So I'm going to let it go by the wayside. Where Tua's been getting criticized ever since he stepped in the league, and
Right.
okay,
So that's easy.
so it's easy, right? Why not? But with Allen, like, he's a great talent. That being said, can he win anything before he becomes like this? Like, oh, he's a top level quarterback. Look, he's talented like a top level quarterback, and he's terrific. I'm not saying he's not terrific, but like, he's won nothing. And 2 of the last 3 years, they've gotten plowed in the playoffs, not beaten, plowed. Like, they took a 9-0 lead against Kansas City in the 2020 AFC title game, and then the Chiefs went on a 38-9 run. Okay, like, blew them out. In fact, it was 38-6. 38-6 run, blew them out of the building. The following year, Allen played great. It's not his fault they lost to the Chiefs.
Yeah, he did play great.
He was phenomenal. It was awesome. One of those days he ran into Mahomes on the wrong day, and he ran into a coaching staff that screwed him over with 13 seconds left. Then this past weekend, like, he didn't play well against Miami. He wasn't good in that game. Then he comes back and plays. Look, and they all played brutally, but he was right there with them. Like, he was terrible too. My biggest problem with Allen in that game was he looked like he had no idea what he was seeing defensively. Like, that, you've been in the league for 4 years. You had no clue what was happening there. Like, that was disconcerting. Actually, he's been in the league 5 years. I think, look, he's really talented. He also makes way too many mistakes. There's a lot of games you watch him, you're like, man, he's just like killing him. With some of this stuff. I think he's great. I think he's a top 5 level talent. But I got to be fair. I also think Herbert's a really talented guy. Like, win a game. Win a game.
We talk about
like,
right.
I mean, at some point here, now Allen's won more than Herbert has. But when you play Mahomes and you play Burrow, who are the standard bearers in the NFL and certainly in the AFC, you don't win. Like, you don't win these big games. You're 0-3 against them in these big spots. I don't care if you beat them in week 5. I don't care. Like, Jacoby Brissett has beaten Burrow and Mahomes in the regular season. I don't care about that. You got to win these big games. And Allen doesn't only not win these games, but in 2 of the 3 games, he's been awful. It matters.
I'm with you. All right. So let's talk about something that's been brewing for a long, long time. And it's all in Dallas, baby. All there in Dallas. Yes, sir. Let's talk about it. Dak Prescott. Obviously, that was a monster choke job. Talk about somebody that looked like a complete deer in headlights. Some of the throws he was making, you'd expect a 7th-round rookie to be making some of the throws he was making in that game. And there's no doubt that the guy that is to the right of us on the screen is the major problem and the reason why this franchise will never move forward ever. But I got to say, McCarthy is completely in the clear here. I'm not picking on McCarthy one damn bit. You were handed that kicker that was falling apart, and he finally made a couple field goals, and your quarterback falling apart. I'm not going to blame Mike McCarthy for that. So your thoughts on Dak Prescott / the old geezer?
I mean, look, what is the one constant over the last almost 30 years now? 27 years, 27 seasons?
The old geezer.
Jerry Jones. I mean, Jerry Jones is the constant, okay? And Jerry Jones, whether he likes to be called it or not, he's a meddler. He gets way too involved with this stuff. The other side of it is, I'm with you with McCarthy. Like, everybody wants to kill that last play. I mean, who cares? They're not winning the game. Like, that game was lost because Dak Prescott threw 2 horrendous interceptions. And by the way, it was lucky he didn't throw more. Should have thrown more. I mean, okay. He was awful. So let's be honest about this. Dak missed 5 games in the regular season, and he led the league in picks. And then he played great against Tampa. That's great. Then went to San Francisco. You can throw on the Niners. There's this misnomer that, like, they're so unbelievable defensively that you can't do anything. Look, the Niners are great defensively. You can throw on that team. That's why, by the way, if the Niners get to the Super Bowl, I'll pick either one of the teams in the AFC because they will just spread them out and be, here it comes. And there's
the Dolphins had them. Okay.
You can throw on them.
Tua was off that day. And there were guys wide open. That's one of the games where I really praised McDaniel because he schemed it beautifully, dude. guys were open, and that's one of those games, one of those few games that I have to look and say, dude, the quarterback was off that day,
He played
and
poorly.
team was off that
Yeah.
day. It's terrible.
I mean, the Niners, you can throw on their corners. Like, if there's one thing about San Francisco, the corners are not good. You can just look. Kansas City scored 44 points and had 2 turnovers. Like, it's not you. I think if Kansas City or Cincinnati plays San Francisco, I think they're winning the game. Now, Cincinnati or Kansas City against Philly, I'm more open to it either way. Yeah. Philly's a powerhouse, man. That team, they do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and the quarterback's convinced me. Hurts has gotten he's getting to where Fields and Lamar have not been able to. He has really improved his accuracy. Yes. He can win from the pocket. And to me, that's the key to any of these running quarterbacks. They have to be able to win from the pocket, because there's going to be times that defense is going to corral you and keep you in there, and you're not going to be able to use your legs as that weapon that really, complements your game. So if you're stuck in the pocket, you need to be able to beat them. And man, I have been so impressed with Hurts. And I'm with you, man. Philly is loaded. They're healthy. They've gotten the break of avoiding a lot of injuries. And so, yeah. And if they get to the Super Bowl, they're going to give Hurst 2 weeks to get even healthier,
right?
Because obviously he got banged up, although he was running in the last game. So it looked like he was obviously, improving overall. All right, so what's the prediction for the AFC and NFC championship games? What do you got?
I think Philly wins by a touchdown. I just think they're better. I think Hurts against Purdy is going to be the difference. I think Hurts will play okay in this game. I don't think he's going to be unbelievable. The Niners are good defensively, but I think he'll be good. I think the Eagles, who had 68 sacks in the regular season, are going to be a problem for Purdy in this game. I think that will be the difference. I think they'll turn him over a couple of times. In the AFC, I think like I'm pretty confident Philadelphia will win. The AFC, I think, is a coin flip. Like I said, I'm going to take Cincinnati. I mean, they beat him every time they play him. Mahomes isn't 100%. Now, how healthy is he? You talk to people around them. It's obviously pretty cloak and dagger right now. They will kind of be, hey, he feels pretty good. What does that mean? I don't know. I mean, maybe he really does. Maybe he doesn't. I'll say this about the AFC title game. If the Chiefs don't turn the ball over, I think they win the game. But they turn it over every time they play Cincinnati. So I will say Cincinnati wins by a field goal again, and people in Kansas City are going to lose their minds. But I think I will take Cincinnati and Philadelphia. I'm more confident in my NFC pick than I am in my AFC pick, but that's where I'll land on it.
All right, by the way, before I ask you about stacking the box, I forgot to ask you, because you get to talk to people around the league. Fangio, is Fangio more about waiting for Sean? Albright had a report out there that the interest in Sean Payton hasn't been what he expected, apparently. And I know he's asking for 20 to 25 million per year, so there aren't a lot of teams willing to pay that and the compensation for the trade. So I understand that. Fangio is interviewing here today in Miami. So a lot of Dolphin fans are hoping that Fangio becomes the defensive coordinator, and there's already that connection with McDaniel that people talked about last year. So what are you hearing there on the Fangio side?
You talk to people around that. I think that, Fangio in Miami, I think is seen as a pretty good fit. I think it's let's put it this way. I think he's definitely the front runner for the job. I think he's the front runner for the job. I don't think he's going to wait
on the Fangio side, because it looks like he's got like a ton of options.
He does. But I think, look, as you mentioned, there's a connection. And I think, too, look, Fangio's a guy that everywhere he goes, that defense immediately gets better. Like, they're always good defensively. I think Fangio looks at that and goes, I think the offense can score points. So defensively, we don't have to hold teams to 13 points like we had to do in Denver. I think there's a reasonable chance that it happens. I do. As far as Peyton goes, I mean, first of all, Ben does a great job. I know Ben. I like Ben. I would tell you that all I've heard is similar in the sense that I don't think there's just not a lot of teams that are going to pay that much money for a head coach. Like, Denver has the money to do it. Carolina's got the money to do it, but the price is higher for Carolina in compensation because it's in division. Right. Arizona's not paying anybody $20-25 million to be their head coach. Okay.
No.
And with the Texans, I don't know that they're like DeMeco Ryans makes a lot of sense for Houston. He played there. I think there's a lot of, you don't have to pay him nearly as much as you're going to pay Peyton. I think that's probably the likelihood there in Houston, or at least if you said who's the leader in the clubhouse, I'd give you Ryans for Houston. If Peyton comes back this year, I think he's in Denver. I don't know that that's a certain.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he would go to Carolina only. I don't think he would go to Denver because of the Russell Wilson
I
thing.
don't know. I don't know that Carolina will pay the price tag both in money and in draft capital, because it's going to be more expensive for Carolina than it's for anybody else because he's in the division.
Yeah.
Denver will pay the financial price. Now, the question for me is, will Peyton ultimately sign on to go there? I think Denver wants him in the worst. I think Peyton, if he comes back, would go there. I wouldn't rule out Carolina for one reason. Tepper's got more money than God. And if he just decides on a whim, that's one thing with coaching I've learned. Anybody who will sit there and tell you that's guaranteed, that's definitely going to happen, you don't know, because there's no cap involved. And if an owner just wakes up one day and goes, you know what? I will pay him that money. But if I had to guess, I think Reich is the favorite in Carolina. I think Peyton is the favorite in Denver if he decides to take the job. And I think in Houston, D'Amico Ryan's the favorite. Indy, God only knows. Indy, that could be Saturday. It could be Bieniemy. It could Indianapolis to me is the one that I throw up your hands. No idea. But those other three, I feel like that's probably what you're looking at least right now.
All right, tell them about Stacking the Box, my brother.
Every Tuesday afternoon at noon Eastern time, 11 Central. You can check it out. You comment in real time. Also, you can watch it just on the YouTube channel, Stack the Box. Subscribe there. Up over 6,000 people, so it's been nice. I see some of you guys in there, which is cool. But check that out on Mondays. Get the column on fanside.com. I tweet it out. You can follow it all there as well.
There you go. Getting it done as always. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. We will catch up next week, my friend. Enjoy the football.
Take care.
You got it. Don't forget, Red Recover right now. All the wraps are on sale, 50% off. One hell of a deal. Somebody out there in your family that is hurting. They work all day on their feet. They've got sore feet. We got wraps that will assist with their feet. They can just use it for 15 minutes a day, and their feet are going to feel so much better. If you have old injuries, old surgeries, man, shoulders, elbows, knees, hips, back, neck, you name it, we've got the wrap for you. We've got it even for dogs, big dogs, small dogs, for their hips, because they sometimes have some issues. Go to redrecover.com and you get 50% off. Take advantage right now.